Hi, everybody, and welcome to TNM Unplugged, the space when you elevate your heart, your soul, your mind to the next level. And today we're going to have this wonderful elevation with a really dear, close, amazing collaborator, co-creator, Eric Balance. He's really special because he's one of these multidimensional creators, operating on so many different levels in 3D reality, in 4D reality, in 5D reality beyond. He's transcending between working with people, supporting people, but he is also within evolution of the systems, working with businesses, creating the new future, the new earth for all of us. So this is going to be an extremely interesting conversation that you're going to tune into. And we're going to start with talking about authenticity, being yourself, how to be yourself, how to connect to your authentic self, how to connect with yourself on a deeper level so that you can be that best possible version of yourself right now, right here. So Eric, welcome.
Thank you so much, Zoran. Always a pleasure to be here, and I'm just very grateful to have the time, the energy, the presence. Always great times. We always the moment that we met in Ibiza, we had these deep, powerful talks. So it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for having me.
So for people who don't know you, some of the followers already know you from our Instagram Live. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, what you're up to, anything that you think that audience needs to know about you, just to get to know you a little bit deeper.
Thank you. So you really nailed like something I always say, multi-dimensional. It's interesting because they used to say that the bodhisattvas, right? They needed 2 wings to fly between all 8 dimensions, and one was the gift of compassion, and the other one was the gift of wisdom. And you can only have those through those 2 gifts. That's the 2 wings that allows you to fly between different dimensions. And these bodhisattvas, they don't pass into the next life because they feel like they really need to be in this reality. And I really feel like I've been able to embody this through a different level of experience in my own life, and also have tons more to learn, of course, right? But this compassionate desire to just want to continue to fulfill my mission has been through writing, through creating, through speaking on stage, and really sharing the importance of what the future of Web3, of the blockchain technology, of tech and emerging tech, really is contributing to the force of mental wellness, emotional intelligence, and how we can really activate developmental science as a force for good by using our heart's intelligence.
And for me, that's an amazing topic. So we will definitely dive into that, because this merge of the technology and spirituality and our ability to activate our emotional intelligence to make the technology suitable and working for us, it's something fascinating. Also, how do we plug the blockchain technology in crypto space inside of it? This is something that I know you're very passionate about and you're leading in a global movement. And before we get there, so big question for you: how did you get in relationship with yourself? This big notion, you be yourself, be authentic, make sure that you're aligned with yourself. It's, for some people, challenging concept, because it's easy to say, it's easy to say you need to be more of yourself, you need to be more authentic, you need to be more present. But how did you do this in your life? What was your journey in really getting deeper in relationship with who you are?
So it's funny that today we're talking about this. And I mean, it's funny, but it's also so beautiful, because yesterday there was something. I went to go see the new movie with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, Black Adam. And in that movie, I'm not going to give it away, but there's one thing that is said at the end, and it says, you as a hero, and one of the ladies says this to one of the heroes, says, you as a hero cannot do what this man can do because he's connected so much to his darkness. And to me, this was something super powerful, and it resonated at such a deep understanding for me, because for us to really be able to walk into different dimensions with power and light, we really need to identify with our own darkness. And this darkness that I've been able to accumulate over the and I'm still working on it all the time.
Yeah, of
But the
course.
darkness inside was something that when I was a young boy, I really went deep and deep into the darkness, as deep I think that I have ever gone. And it was through drugs. It
Mm.
was through really being lost. It was for 3 years being away from my parents and putting them through such deep darkness and emotional trauma. And it wasn't until I really faced that darkness by doing the deeper work of saying, hey, I'm going to go and get help and I'm going to listen to what my parents say. And I'm going to, by the power of a question, and the power of a question of what my father asked me was like, Eric, if you can do this, not even for me or for you, but can you do this for your future self? And this was something that Zoran, like when it came out and it was asked in such a genuine, compassionate, loving way that it ignited something deeper inside of me that I can't even explain other than the fact that it was a feeling.
Yeah.
And this feeling was more of a knowing that there is something really special for me to discover in the
Mhm.
future part of my life. And
Mhm.
so this relationship that I was forced through my soul to say, hey, Eric, just like I see you, I believe in you. And it was, we all have this voice in our head. And it was about me trusting it. It was
Mhm.
really about me trusting in that deeper and through the reflection points of seeing infinite love through my parents and the love they had for each other
Mhm.
and the faith that they have had in something greater than themselves, as a result having that in me. And
Mhm.
this, I have to say, it drove me inwards.
Mhm. Wow. I love when people come with such a powerful and authentic story, of sharing themselves so beautifully with the world. So, and I completely hear that, our ability to get in relationship with our darkness, our ability to get in relationship with our shadow actually gets us connected deeper to ourselves because we can't ignore it. We can't bypass it. We all have it. And as you beautifully said, it's all work in progress all the time. It's there, it's there, it's there. But it requires a certain level of courageousness or crisis or dark night of the soul or people not having any choices. So for you, what I hear, it was meant to be that your life has orchestrated events and circumstances when you really didn't have any choice but to get in relationship with it, and then you were initiated to this conversation, right?
100%. And when this conversation happened, it wasn't about blaming anybody except taking responsibility. It was about how can I be more responsible for creating this scenario and
Mm-hmm.
taking the the awareness of that space and saying, what can I identify in this pattern
Mm-hmm.
so that I don't repeat it? And I
Yeah.
think that, one of the greatest things for me is like, how can we, like, the future belongs to those of us that can really identify powerful patterns. And if we
Yeah.
can identify those patterns within ourselves first, we
Mm-hmm.
can then have that we identify the patterns, we notice them,
Mm-hmm.
and then we break them and we create new ones. And so
Yeah.
if we can do this within our own realities first, our own lives,
Mm-hmm.
then we can have that level of integrity and start doing that in our families, in our communities, in our nations, in our societies.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that we need to do that with is ourselves. So it's impossible. People are always like, hey, I want to go change the world. But the thing is like, hey, have you done those little 2 millimeter shifts on yourself first?
Yeah. So, what are some of the patterns, or one or two, that you were willing to share that you managed to hack and break and evolve? And what was your process? You already said looking into them, identifying them, transforming them in yourself. So, What are the examples? So one or two, or one? Let's go with one.
Hey, yeah, no, like, I mean, so I'll start with my number one value, because I think that the reason it's become my number one value is because it wasn't in the past. Do you see what I'm saying? So, and it's so funny. Like, I was thinking about this morning. Like, why is this my number one value? And I'll tell you the one that is my number one value. It's integrity.
Right.
So where was I out of integrity for such a long period of my life? What was I not doing based off of? So the reason it's my number one value now, and why I like call out people that are out of integrity, is because I can see that so clearly, because I'm so connected to how much it affected me in the past. And that was part of my darkness of being out of integrity with myself.
Yes.
You see? And so because I realized, hey, Eric, okay, and I'll tell you like examples of me being out of integrity, right? So for example, when I was a child or younger, I was taking drugs, or when I wanted to get super fit, I was taking steroids. Or when I got married, I wasn't faithful to a woman that I loved. Or when I needed to create a business, how was I really curating a conversation that wasn't in the best interest of the individual that I was supposed to serve? And so I think that for so long I was outside of this integrity, and it was so important for me to say, hey, when I went through this like deeper version of myself, and I said, Eric, and I met this other individual, this woman who really was a transformative woman in my life. Two really, I mean, every single amazing woman in my life has been an amazing transformational teacher.
They're all
That's
listening.
why she came in. They always are,
All listening.
Yeah. It's funny because they're so magnetic and so powerful in their own ways. And it's like I realized that what I was attracting was this beautiful mirror of my own power.
Yeah.
And so they would question when my ego came out, they would question and they would challenge me, and they would say, hey, this is you, this is not me. Those triggers inside of me that were challenging me, like I was with a very successful woman in Australia, for example, and she was an amazing speaker. I met her through Tony Robbins, and like would have given me the world. But what did I do? It was my lack of seeing her, because I was competing with myself. So I started to compete with her. And so my ego actually separated us, and it created a lack of integrity, because I wasn't allowing myself to really see what my value was. She was with me because I was loving, because I was kind, because I was sweet, not because I had $1 million in my bank account. She already had all that. She didn't need all of that. She didn't give a shit about all of that. She cared about the value that I was bringing. And here's the thing is like, because patriarchal society had taught me that I needed to be this like hard-nosed, powerful pretend of a man. It was a toxic, wounded man, not a real man. I believed it.
Yeah.
And I believe that patriarchal society lacks integrity.
Yes.
And this is why I decided in those moments, I said, this is going to be my number one value, and I'm going to challenge patriarchal misrepresentation of what real masculinity looks like for the rest of my life. And I'm going to pass it down to my children, and I'm going to challenge it, and I'm going to walk into the darkest rooms, and I'm going to create fucking light because of that. And it's only because I was able to do it with myself. So anyone's challenge or projection of what they think that I'm doing to try to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. I know that I'm doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I've learned how to do it for myself.
Yeah.
And because I've been challenged for so long. So this was, I don't know if I answered your question in a very
Yeah,
long
you
way.
did. You did. In a very long way, but I love the story because you answering the question in such a beautiful way. Because the question was, how do you recognize those patterns? How you transform them? How do you notice them? And the whole story of you being in that relationship and noticing things about yourself and evolving and being aware that people are challenging things that needs to be catalyzed, especially the women in their life, and getting into the powerful manhood. And I think that's another important topic. So we'll open that one. I just want to kind of go back to this one. So when you spot that pattern, for example, you just identify it, you see it, and where do you find a courage or a tool, or how do you sustain that transformation, when you find that pattern? Because you said, one of the most important thing right now for us all is to spot those patterns, to understand them, to witness them, to transform them, so that this can go from, let's call, a shadow aspect of yourself, from negativity into positivity, that can be used and catalyzed, because we have to be in relationships. So I was just curious about your process. What do you do?
Yeah. So I check in and I check in with, like, what would my mom like? What would my dad like?
Mm-hmm.
What would the people that really, like, how would they feel if I repeated this pattern and they were on the receiving end of that?
Yeah.
Would they would my grandmother say to me, "Hey, Eric, like, this is good," or "This is like, you're hurting my feelings"? And so I really internalize this, because in the past, going through plant medicines or ayahuasca or any of these, like, psychedelic experiences, it's about understanding that our essence, or our emotional connection, is coming from a deeper source. And so once we can internalize it and heal it within ourselves, we actually heal generational and ancestral traumas because of that.
Yeah. Yes.
And so as a result of me really feeling that, so I'm like, okay, so how can I connect back to my grandfather, my grandmother, my current grandmother that's, like, living? What I'm saying is, like, the one that's still alive. My mom and dad.
Yeah.
And I really internalize the feeling of what the reflection would be.
Yes.
And so I take that moment and I ask myself these questions: how would mom and dad feel? How would grandma feel if I showed up in this capacity right now? Would it be a positive emotion or a negative emotion? And if that feeling isn't right, if that feeling isn't in any little way, then I know that that's a pattern that I have to shift. Right. I know that that's a pattern that I have to work on. So then I have to ask myself the question: what's reflecting around me that is triggering me to turn into that negative emotion? And so I have to ask myself, is this a projection or a reflection?
Great.
And so if it's a projection, I know that it's actually, I need to just put my wall up, I need to create my boundary, and I need to push that individual or that mirror outside of my reality, because it's not welcome here.
Yeah.
If it's a reflection, I need to then take more responsibility. And how do I know if it's a projection or a reflection?
Really, that's a great question. I was just about to ask you that, but you ask yourself.
So you see what I mean? So I ask myself these questions all the time. And so it's like I coach myself. And so what's the difference? So a projection is somebody trying to create a limitation, right? Somebody trying to pass on their perceptions, their realities onto me.
Yeah.
Right? A reflection is me understanding and seeing that actually this has originated, this situation has originated from my behavior. And so I really have to then take a moment and say, if that person is are those beliefs coming from that individual or my beliefs? Right? And then sometimes then you have to go even deeper and say, hey, because sometimes like the beliefs can really kind of amalgamate and merge into one, where it's like, maybe they're neither beliefs. Maybe both beliefs are wrong. So then it's about getting curious. Then it's about being innocent enough to saying, hey, I didn't know. Like, tell me what you think about that. Like, what makes you think this about me? And so this is where the real vulnerability, real courageous conversations start coming up, because you're willing to learn about somebody that's saying, hey, is it your limitation or is it mine? Is it your belief system or is it mine? Is mine wrong and yours right? Or maybe both of ours is wrong or right?
Right.
And so this is about now having a conscious conversation about saying, are you actually taking responsibility for what you're saying? And if we both take responsibility, there's no longer projections. Now we're just reflecting each other's best part.
That's it. That's it. Beautiful definition. Beautiful definition. I'm so grateful that you brought this up, because in relationship, being relationship with loved ones, or, in organizational relationship, in family constellations, in friendship, we really do need to distinguish between projection and reflection. And we need to understand when is that reflection happening and when is the projection, because it's, that's what creates this sticky, challenging part of us relating. And also you mentioned something really important, which is this deep vulnerability. And in those conversations, because being vulnerable, traditionally was seen as a sign of weakness, because we had to put the shield, the boundary, ability to kind of not get hurt. Especially men, what you mentioned, this patriarchal society, we were not taught how to be vulnerable enough, to be present enough, to open enough, to explore in this reflection. So for me, that's one of the most important things that young men or all men should adopt, that while in reflection, in organizational context or family or with loved one, that vulnerability to open up, to explore yourself on a deeper level. It's very important, isn't it?
I think that especially for men, because women are in their nature more open. It's in their nature. Although we've tried as men to limit that.
Yeah.
We've really tried for centuries, for thousands of years.
Yes.
But it's in their nature to be more open. It's in their nature to be more connected. Men have not allowed the connection of women to really expand because of their own lack, because of their own insecurity, because of their own fear of themselves. Because they don't know how, they haven't learned how to express themselves. So for thousands of years, we've actually limited the beauty of our feminine spirit, our feminine counterparts.
Correct.
Because we were unwilling to be courageous enough to look at ourselves. We would blame and point the finger out. Meanwhile, there were three fingers pointing back at us.
Correct.
And I think that this is something that we as humanity really need to observe and say, hey, like, how can we really bring back this balance of masculine and feminine presence within ourselves? Within ourselves, right? Because I'm not saying that it's men or women. I'm just saying that there has been an imbalance of this patriarchal philosophy that has been passed down because of the stories that have been passed down, right? The lack of awareness. And we're doing the best we can with the knowledge that we have. Of course, every day we have been for thousands of years.
Yes.
Now I think that with the information, the availability, the ability to not just take the information but also communicate it effectively, we can really amalgamate what it means to bring these higher dimensions to the forefront of our 3D phase or physical
reality.
And I think that this is something that it's going to take both males and females to be more open. to be more open to say, hey, like this vulnerable expression is actually your superpower. It's your faith in yourself. It's your heart's intention to express with absolute conscious expression, because it's who you are, and who you are, you've always just wanted to play. You've always just wanted to be this inner child with innocence, with playfulness, with kindness, because that's who we are in our nature.
That's it. That's who we are in the nature. Absolutely. The innocence, the playfulness, the kindness, and our ability to be that, it's super important. And also shifting the conversation and transforming the paradigm. You're also talking about the big things here. How can we evolve this whole paradigm? And how can we emerge into the new earth, as we call it, the new reality? So let's shift the gears. I know that you are also connected with technology. You mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, emotional intelligence merges with the high tech, with cryptocurrency, with digitalization. How do you see our new earth emerging? So let's say that we're co-creating the new future from us, and we all in integrity, which is something that I really love that you're bringing, that we all are integral. There is no fractalization of ourselves, because when we're out of integrity, we become fractals, become scattered, basically. And then we cannot catch these elements of ourselves because they're floating around. So when we are in integrity, through observing our patterns, we get more present, more focused, more real, more embodied as who we really are. That innocence, playfulness, connection to source, connection to God, however you want to call it, we become all of that. And now we're co-creating this new reality. So what are you seeing in the world with this merge of technology, cryptocurrency, our evolution, our spirituality? How are you witnessing and observing the future? And what do you think it's important for all of us to know about that?
I think the biggest thing that we have to really pay attention to is making sure that as our emerging tech is coming into our reality, is saying, like you said, first thing is like we're an integral. So there's no fractalization, like you mentioned. I'm just going to reiterate that. But from a piece of saying, okay, so if that's the case, what are we doing to create new governance models that are actualizing through a meritocracy basis, right? Mm-hmm. Focused on merit, right? Not focused on how much money you have, or focused on like, how successful you were in Web 2, or, what product you created 100 years ago. When I'm talking about, when I'm saying that, I mean about the U.S. Treasury.
Yes.
So I'm talking about Microsoft, I'm talking about Meta, Facebook, all these things. I'm talking about these individuals that have utilized data analytics and taken its sovereignty away from people. And so they've manipulated they've manipulated behavior based off creating an emotion in somebody to get them to take some sort of an action that is based on a capitalistic monetary value.
Yeah.
And so instead, what are we doing to understand? Here, being in Dubai right now, it's interesting because there's a lot of youth. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people in my age that I'm learning, like 10 years younger than me, that I'm learning from. And I've been spending time with people that are younger than me for the last 5 years while I've been traveling the planet, learning from different cultures and things like this. But why was this super important to me? Because I thought for the longest time that when I was growing up, that I didn't see, like, I was the only one that maybe I thought that wasn't seeing separation, that it was being passed down from all these side concepts. But then I realized, holy moly, like there's so many of us that actually don't see this separation.
Yeah, correct.
And so this is exactly why the blockchain tech, crypto, artificial intelligence, Web3, metaverse, because it's our generation, right? It's this youthful generation that is creating and breaking the patterns of societal expectations that has been created to bring us up. And so all of us are coming together, whether these giants like it or not, whether they like it or not, we're disrupting and challenging the status quo.
Yeah.
Because maybe not everybody is aware of the spiritual awareness, right? But what they are aware of is doing something right. And and I think that, you know, Dubai has been given this like nasty name of what the facade is and illusion and
Yeah.
materialistic and all these things, but there's a lot of goodness that is being created here. And some of it completely unconscious. And so with Web3, with the importance of really actualizing an awareness of what blockchain, a decentralized platform, is focused, is like the heart of what can be created here, because it's coming from a space. Think of our heart as the connection to our infinite intelligence, right?
Yeah.
And if we connect back to that infinite intelligence source, you know, creator, God, whatever you want to call it, the blockchain space is allowing this decentralized component to have the ability for crypto, for exchanges, for emerging tech, AI, to really help the sovereignty of the people that are using it.
Yes.
And data analytics, like that Facebook or Microsoft or, you know, the US government or Canadian government or, you know, 1,000 other things that have been going on, you know, the UN, World Economic Forum, all these fucking things that have been shown to create our distractive minds in an information age where everything is there's so much information being given. Is it possible that we are being given information to pay attention to, or by creating fear, so that we're distracted from what's really going on?
Yep.
And I mean, listen, I don't have to say this, like, you don't even have to, you don't put, anyone that's listening doesn't have to say, like, take my word for it. Just look at what happened with COVID.
Yes, exactly. Just look. Yeah, absolutely. Just witness and look, and then it will be very, very clear and very, very apparent. So when we become integral, so when you become integral yourself and we call other people into full integrity, which I think is one of the most important thing in this informational age, this lack of fractalization, what is the most positive outcome that you can see for the world right now?
I feel like the greatest part of integrity is seeing each other as family. It's identifying, like when we were kids, that we're going to go to the park and play. And when we all have this value of integrity, we realize that the park has just become our planet. That the park has just become so much bigger, with so much more toys and so much more slides and so much more buildings and so much more opportunity. And every single person that you meet is just an extension of you. And every single person that you meet is infinite intelligence, the teacher inside of you that's speaking through the other individual to communicate some sort of a lesson to you. Because if you separate yourself from everything, you're going to feel alone. But if you can go, and I'm saying this from my own experience.
Yeah.
I spent the last 5 years on 5 different continents, going into absolute uncertain environments and being able to feel people and creating community, common unity with individuals. Yeah. And if we're able to hold presence with people and meet people and connect with people, how are we willing to then listen? Then you're never alone. You feel like family everywhere you go because you created it. Yeah. And if this is something that integrity will teach you, it's how do you leave a situation, person, an expression better than when you find it. And if you think like that in every encounter that you have, you will leave this planet better than when you find it.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you for just summarizing it and giving us such a wonderful, positive outlook. So how can people find you? On Instagram, I suppose, on the website? Can you just give us a few more details about you? Because you're inspirational visionary, in addition to being multidimensional operator on all different levels. So people can already feel that when they're listening to this podcast and watching this on YouTube, that, you know, how much energy of inspiration and integrity and courage and beauty comes from you. So I would love people to know more about you. So where they can find you.
So thank you, bro. And thank you for these kind words. It really means a lot to me. And I know that, you know, when you say it with such like truth and beauty. And, you know, having spent time together with you, I know how much of an amazing man you are. So I'm just reflecting back the magic that's inside of you, because we can't see what we don't have. And I think that this is something that I just, you know, have identified within life is, you know, what we see in each other. It really is what we have within ourselves. And
Right.
I think that this is the greatest gift of life. And so for anyone that wants to connect deeper or listen in, please check out, you know, my YouTube, Eric Balance, ericbalance.com. You can go on there and you can check out, you know, what we're up to on the podcast. You can check out, you know, different courses that I have going on. I have a free alignment course that you can go and just download, and it'll give you worksheets and some practices of like, how can you stay in deep alignment and in integrity. And so going in there, it's free of charge. You just go and sign up and it's yours. And then of course, like, you know, check me out on Instagram, Eric Balance. It really is where I'm the most active. Of course, I'm trying to get my Twitter and my TikTok up, you know, right now, especially with the Web3. They say Twitter is like the most important thing to really get going. So all of these amazing crypto guys are teaching me a lot as well. So there's lots that I'm learning as well, you know, and
of course.
And yeah, like, if there's anything that I can do for anybody that's listening in, please just reach out to me. I'm always here. And my next event, I think, will be in March at the AIBC Summit. I'll be speaking alongside a dear teacher that I got announced yesterday. So I'm really excited to introduce, but I'm not going to give who that is yet. I'm really excited to announce that officially.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you so much, Eric, for this wonderful conversation, wonderful consciousness you brought into this space. Thank you so much for tuning in, for listening to TNM Unplugged, for elevating yourself, for connecting to yourself. And I hope this elevation today was really beneficial and inspiring. So we'll see you next time. For time being, thank you so much once again for tuning in. Bye, Eric.